Since the historic voyage of Columbus, the science of map making has played a leading role in the birth and development of America. Through the intervening centuries, map information concerning this great country has grown with ever-increasing rapidity. More power to those first explorers and early pioneers who crossed strange oceans, blazed new trails, discovered new lands, new mountains, new rivers, new forests, and recorded their findings for the benefit of those to follow. Today, the finest maps, formerly the prized possessions of the privileged few, can be had for the asking. Presto, and right at their fingertips, modern motorists can have an information bureau on any road they may wish to take. But how many of us ever stop to think what a tremendous task it is to keep constant check on the millions of miles of roads in the United States?
I love those old videos. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to use Google Earth Pro. It can be used in schools by teachers and students for any subject area. I have to say, I've always loved globes and maps. I can remember making a cross-country camping trip with my car, camping equipment, cooler, and my good old Rand McNally road atlas and trip planner. Even as a kid, I loved that you could pull into a gas station and grab a road map. I would look at the maps and plan out our route to our destinations. As an adult, once I got out of school and started making some money, I was able to join AAA, and they would send me these AAA triptychs, which I would flip through the pages as I journeyed along the road to my destination. Things really got futuristic, or so I thought, when I went on my computer and printed out MapQuest maps to take me with me as we headed to the Outer Banks. Now today I just jump in my car, plug in the address to my destination, and let the GPS system guide me there. Man, have things changed. But even today, I still like the feel of a map in my hand, similar to having a newspaper in my hand. Yet at the same time, I enjoy exploring the world and my local surroundings using Google tools such as Google Maps and Google Earth. So what do you say? Let's get started with exploring Google Earth and Google Maps. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and Google and do a search and find Google Earth Pro and where to download it. So I did that, and I get to the website, and I'm going to get the desktop version, and once I get there I'm going to download it, and I'm going to save it to my computer. Here I'm going to save it in a that I have of all my downloads, and it's Google Earth, so I know where I have. And if I need to reinstall it later, I got a copy of it available. And I'm just going to save it. And I'm ready to move on to the next stage. Okay, I've now downloaded, installed, and have started up Google Earth Pro for the desktop. And there's certain areas that I pay particular attention to. There are my places. As you begin to build up like tours or adding different places, locations, that's where they'll wind up going. You can see I've got a tour that I put together here that's in my places. You also have below that layers, and I can add certain layers. If I want borders and labels, I can add borders and labels, and you can see they'll pop up there. I can turn them off. I could do roads. As I zoom in, I'll be able to see roads. I could do weather. There's different types of layers that you can continue to add. You also notice up at the top you have toolbars with different functions. I'll go into those and kind of explain what those different functions are. And over here I have kind of a directional wheel that I could use to change the look of the globe. So I can kind of have it go this way, I can have it go that way, I can have it go up, I can have it go down, I can center it if I want, I can tilt the globe, I can also by hand just go in and move it the way I want. I can also zoom in and zoom out if I want. And that's kind of where the body of most of my work will come from, is using places, layers, toolbars, and kind of zooming in and zooming out. Within this lesson, you'll see that there is a glossary of terms for Google Earth that you can use at any time. Now, when I first introduced Google Earth to students or even to teachers, one of the things to kind of get them fascinated by Google Earth is I asked them to type in their address to try to locate it on Google Earth. For this example, I'm going to use a place I used to like to go for pizza, and that was Riviera Pizza. It was right here, and so I've got the address in, and I'm going to go search for it. What it's going to do is it's going to zoom in, and it's going to take me to where the rib was. Now, if I want, I can zoom in closer to be able to get a better look at it. I can kind of turn this around, and the more I zoom, the better view I'm going to get. And you're going to notice something happens the closer I get. It automatically begins to turn into like Google Streets and give me a street view of the location, and I can turn it around, and I can see there's what's called Stokes Road. And if I keep turning it, there's the Riviera right there. Students really get excited when they're able to zoom in and see their house, and they're also kind of fascinated, like, wow, that's my house. So there I've zoomed into Street View. I'm going to exit Street View, and it's going to kind of pop me back out a little further, and I can kind of see it from that side. And if I want, I can kind of move around. I can also use the tools I have here to move up and down and get a better view of it. So if you're introducing Google Earth to your students for the first time, my suggestion is you have them do this, because that immediately gets them kind of excited about that. Now, if I really want to get them excited, what I do is I use this toolbar up here, which is a timeline, and I can actually kind of go back in time somewhat to see what it looked like at another period of time in that area. So I'm going back to different time periods and looking to see if there's any difference in that area from previously. And I'm going to go back. It's all going to take me sort of a blurry view. And I'll see if I can get back out a little further to show me what it looked like in 1995. I can go all the way back to 1985, and I'm going to zoom out, probably because it's not going to give me a real good close-up view of it. But that's one other tool that students really get excited about, is when they can go back in time and see what it looked like, that area, at another period. Like this is 1985. So as I mentioned before, if you want to get students started and kind of get an idea of it, is that's one of the first things I show them how to do, and they really get a kick out of it. I've always believed when using a new program, if you have something in hand that will let you go along with the program as you get started, it's much easier to learn how to use the program. Here I have a storyboard that I did related to Shays Rebellion, and there's a number of different ways I could have told this story, but I decided I would tell it in Google Earth. Just as an aside, I think the best way when you're going to do a project like this is the better organized you are, the easier things are going to go, whether it's for yourself or your students. You'll notice in here I've got things on the storyboard pretty much organized. I have the narration if I was going to talk this, or in Google Earth I'm going to actually just copy and paste this text. I also know what picture I'm going to use, which I have stored in a folder. If I want to add music, like for a story, I know what file I'm going to use and where that's located. So I always recommend, before you get started, whether it's yourself or your students, the best way to have the project go successfully is to be organized ahead of time. I always believe the best way of learning is by doing. And so what we're going to do here is create a tour and start by adding place markers. Now, before I do that, what I want to do is I'm going to go to My Places and I'm going to add a folder. This folder is where I'm going to contain all my place markers. So I'm going to call this Shays Rebellion and click OK. Now within this folder is where I'm going to put all my, as I mentioned before, all my place markers. Now, I know this rebellion took place in Massachusetts, so I'm going to go to Massachusetts and I'm going to search, and it will then take me to Massachusetts. And if I want, I can zoom in closer. The other thing is, as I mentioned before about layers, I'm going to go down to borders and labels and click that, and then you'll see it now puts in the borders of Massachusetts as well as labels, different towns, for example. Now that I'm at Massachusetts, I'm going to clear the search results. So I just hit the X here and it clears that out. And what I'm going to do in place is put a place marker. So I'm going to go up to Shays Rebellion folder. I'm going to right click with my mouse button and I'm going to add a place mark. I want to call this place marker Introduction to Shays Rebellion. Now, if you remember, I had done a storyboard on this that will help keep me organized and be able to take the information from the storyboard and actually put it into Google Earth. And I know here's my introduction, and this is the piece of information that I'm going to take, and I'm going to copy that. But I also want to keep in mind that this is the picture that I'm going to use also in this. Here I am back in Google Earth, and I'm going to paste that information. And there it is. And I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to hit the Enter key to bring me down a space, because the next thing I would do is I want to go get that image and save that image into here. So I simply just go up to Add Local Image and click on it. Now, if you run from the storyboard, this is the image that I wanted to use that I had completed. So I'm just going to click on that. You're going to see it puts a path to where that image is located. And then I simply click OK. And when I click on this, you'll see the information there with the picture. And I can fix things or change things or add things. Now, one thing I noticed, I didn't capitalize the I there, so I want to go back and fix that. Now, here's a point that drives people crazy sometimes, is if I go over here and I double click on it, it just brings me back up to the introduction. I see I haven't changed anything. All right. What I need to do is I need to come over to my places and instead right click on this and choose Properties. Once I'm in Properties, I can go back up and go to Introduction where the lowercase I is, and I can fix that and click OK. And now I've fixed that. So always remember, double clicking only brings up that information. You can't edit. You have to go over to the places and right click and click Properties, and then you can change whatever you want in the properties. Now I'm ready to add my second place mark, but I need to figure out where it goes. Since the second one is at the birth of Daniel Shays, I looked through my narration and I realized that it's going to take place in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. So as I did before, I'm going to start putting the information in, and I notice that it kind of finishes off for me, and I can search, and it's going to take me to Hopkinton. This time I want to zoom in a little bit closer for this marker. I'm going to move this up a little bit, move a little closer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this the search results, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to add a place mark, and I'm going to call it birthplace of Daniel Shays. I'm back here and I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to come back to Google Earth and I'm going to paste that in. And remember, I wanted to include that picture, so I'm going to go back to add local image. I found the image I want, which is right here, and I'm going to click open and click OK. And now if I click on that, it'll show me that one. So if I look now, I can see I have my 2 place marks listed here. And if I look over here, I see the check marks next to them. If I don't want them to appear at one stage or another, I could just uncheck it and they won't come up. If I want to go to it back again, I can simply double click on that and it's going to reappear and kind of take me to that. And then I can double click on this and it'll take me to that and show me the information. So I could continue to go through my storyboard and add all the different aspects that I have listed here onto Google Earth. I've now gone through and added all the place marks for my storyboard to tell the story of Shays Rebellion. And there you can see they're all there in places, and you can see where they're indicated by placeholders on the map. Particularly keep in mind around layers and what I want displayed, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's just go to this one place mark, for example, and zoom in. And if I go back over to layers, I can see there's an option for places. And if I click on places, right now I don't see anything change, but if I start to zoom in, you're going to see it starts showing me the Furniture House, Saratoga National Historic Park, Rod and Gun Club, Solomon, Saratoga. I don't really want those places shown because they weren't there back in the 1700s, so I'm going to uncheck that. The other one that if I click on roads, you're going to see it's going to show all these local roads. It could show county roads, state roads, highways. And since they weren't really around back then, I don't want them showing either. So that's why when you go to put together and look at layers, you want to think about what you want displayed and what you don't want to be displayed. So now that I've got all my markers in place, I'm ready to begin to make my tour. So I'm going to go up to the toolbar here and I'm going to record a tour. And I'm going to come down here and now I'm going to click on the record button. If I don't want the mic, I can disable the mic. And I'm going to click record. It's going to start the recording. I can see here. I'm going to double click on the first one. It's going to take me to this. Now, how long I stay here depends in part on how much information I have listed here. I want to give the person that's taking the tour time to be able to read the information. Once I've given them enough time, I can then go down to Birth of Daniel Shays. And I can uncheck the first one because I don't want that to be displayed. And I go through and now I have the second part. And then, as I mentioned before, give people a chance to be able to read what they have listed here. And then I can go to the next one and I'm going to uncheck the previous one. It's going to go through that. And I can continue on my way, going through each part of the tour. Once I completed all the steps of my tour, I'm going to hit that to stop it. It then will begin to show me the tour. And you can see down here it's kind of timeline showing me what I have. Now, once it gets through all of this, and I can watch the whole thing if I wanted to, what I want to remember to do is I'm going to save this. And now what I'm going to do is give this a name. And if I want, I can give it a description. And click OK. And what you're going to notice now, it has that tour listed in my places. So now I've got that tour all completed. One of the questions become, after you've created your tours, how do I share it? One way to share it is if I highlight and I've got it checked here, the tour, I can go up and I can actually email it to somebody. So I can just click on the little email. It's going to ask me what I want to share, and I'm going to tell it I want this tour, which is a KML file. And then I simply click email. It's going to ask me at this point what email service I want to use. I use Outlook, so I'm going to click on Outlook. And here you see it's pretty much got me set up. All I need to do is tell it who I want to send it to. So I'm just going to send it to myself, and then I simply would click send. And here you see I've received the email. Now note, just as a precaution, here it threw it into my spam folder thinking that it was spam, but I just told it wasn't. And here you can see the files attached of the tour. So if I have Google Earth on my desktop, I can actually run this tour that somebody sent to me. Now, some of the bad news with Google Earth, I find it sometimes a little bit buggy, and things that it's supposed to do doesn't necessarily work out the way I had hoped to. For example, I should be able to, according to them, be able to, if I have this highlighted, to open it up on the web. So if I click up here where it says to open it up on the web page comes up, Google Earth loads, but there's nothing there. So if I go to projects, I can now open that up and do it, but it doesn't automatically load. Another option I found is if I want to simply create a video of my tour, I can go up to Tools and choose Movie Maker. And what I could do is tell it, okay, I want to take this saved tour and I want to make that into a movie. And all I would do is tell it where I want to save it to and click Create Movie. And then it will start to create an MP4 file of this. Okay, so here's the other bad news. I recorded this file with Movie Maker, and when it goes through to tell the tour, or show the tour rather, what happens is none of the windows pop up with the information displayed. It simply goes and shows the placeholder but doesn't show up any of the information that I added. Another problem that sometimes comes up, I'll go to make a movie, and if I go to Tools, sometimes Movie Maker is grayed out. Sometimes if I close out the program and come back in, it'll be activated. Another problem may be you don't have Movie Maker installed. Windows 11 does not come with it. I can go to the App Store and there's a Movie Maker video editor that I can download and add. The other option is I can do a search for Microsoft Windows Live Essentials, which could be found in the archives.org, and I can install the Movie Maker from there. Now, the thing to remember with installing Essentials, make sure you only click on to install the movie maker, and the photo gallery. Do not install the other pieces of Essentials. However, I still ran into the problem where it still just will do the placeholders but will not pop up the windows with the additional information. So if you're just doing a presentation with just that, then that will work out fine. If not, you may want to look for alternatives. Now what I did is I used Camtasia Studio, which allows me to do video captures of my screen. And so when I did that and only kind of took the area of the tour, I was able to get it with the boxes because I was basically controlling everything myself. So that's one tool that you could use. Other tools that you can use, there may be some free downloads that you can get for video capturing of your screen that will do the same thing, and it just made life easier for me doing it that way rather than using the tool within Google Earth Pro. So if you're interested in some type of screen recorder but don't want to spend some money, here are some possibilities that you can use. The first one here is the screen video recorder. It's Windows based. You can use it to record and capture screens on your computer. Another option you have is ShareX, which is also free, and you can download it. It's Windows based, and it'll tell you the things that it can capture and how it can upload and different tools that it has contained within it. So that's also another free one. ShareX. Another one is called Cam Studio. It'll kind of explain Windows based, and then once again, if you look through, it'll tell you what it can do. And that's Cam Studio. Another option is Tiny Take. This is also Windows based, and once again, as I go through, it will show you information about what it can do and how it can do it. The final one that I'll show you is called FreeCam, and once again, it's Windows based, and I can kind of look through once again and see what tools and capabilities it has. Now I'll say one thing, and some of these, as you notice here, they have a free version, they also have a paid version, and usually the paid version will have more features, more abilities than the free version, so just keep that in mind. Depends how sophisticated you want to be with your video recordings. If, for example, you're simply just wanting to capture screens like I showed you with Google Earth, then you don't need all these elaborate tools. So that hopefully will be helpful in you deciding which one of those that you would be interested in downloading. As we wrap up Google Earth Pro, a few things to keep in mind. One is to look at Google Earth Pro versus the web version, and as you can see here, there's some difference to each one of them. Two of the major things is in Google Earth Pro, you need to have the program installed onto your computer. The other is that Google Earth Pro has more advanced tools within it rather than Google Earth on the web. Another thing to consider is what your preferences are. I don't know, for some reason I like to use desktop applications more than web-based applications, though I use them both. I just find it nice to not have to be internet dependent when I'm working on projects, just in case something goes wrong. To your students or yourself that you get organized before creating any type of tour on Google Earth. As I mentioned before, I use a storyboard to be able to organize what the tour will be about. Just be aware at times you may have students that are very resistant to this idea. They'll often tell you that they've got all their ideas up in their head and they're ready to go. However, you'll see them the whole period just kind of clicking and playing and not really making any progress. So keep organized. That's the best way to go.